Hi there. Welcome to virtual programming at the McCracken County Public Library. My name is Dusty Luthy and I am an assistant clerk at the library. And I want to welcome you and invite you to this program, which will focus on spiritual disciplines and practice for both prayer and meditation. The book that these are based on is the Spiritual Disciplines Handbook by Adele Ahlberg Calhoun. You can find this on our digital borrowing platform, Hoopla Digital, which you can find as an app on your smart device or from your computer. You can pull up the book, search for it, and all you have to do is click borrow, and then you can read and go through it yourself. This book is designed to be gone through either from an individual perspective or from a community perspective, whether you're in a small group or in a family setting. It works both ways. Part of my resume for being able to talk to you today is that I just completed a Master's of Divinity degree from Memphis Theological Seminary, and I'm an ordained minister in the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. This book was used as a textbook for one of our foundational courses, and the information found has been very informative in my own spirituality and spiritual development. And I think there's some things that can transition between a religious perspective, but also a prayer and meditative standpoint. So if you're not religious, hang tight. We'll be able to apply this in both contexts. The book is divided up into different topical sections for you to engage based on your needs. There's an introduction to each spiritual practice, which includes historical information because some of these are quite old. There's also reflection questions, other spiritual exercises that you can go through, and a list of additional resources if you're more interested in pursuing some of these disciplines. Again, these are things that can be applied through many different religious traditions or not at all. So again, I hope that you can find something to take away from this. If you've joined with me before in a past program, the Praying in Color program, one of the most important things we want to do before we get started is to make sure that we center ourselves. Make sure we're in a posture to receive that divine word, or to be able to tap into our inner consciousness, or maybe a little bit of both. So let's start with breathing. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Breathing is foundational to life, so it's very important we start with it. As we release tension and stress. Our breath helps us find ourselves back into that rhythm of life. The other thing is you want to make sure that your physical posture is in good shape. Are you sitting upright? If you are inclined or reclined, that's okay. Just make sure that you are balanced. You don't want to be leaning one way or the other. That's not super conducive to good meditation or prayer practices. Also, go ahead and consider ways that you can limit your distractions. Consider keeping a notepad by your side to write down the things that pop into your mind when your mind is free. Or perhaps put a glass of water beside you. It might be more distracting to be thirsty than to deny yourself of a drink. Now that you feel properly centered and grounded, let's move on to some of these practices. The first practice I want to go over is called the examine. The examine is a Latin word for examination, and it means looking inside of ourselves and examining what's going on. This was started by Saint Ignatius of Loyola in the 15th century as a way to connect the monks of his order and to help them see the divine movement of God at work in their lives. Saint Ignatius of Loyola started the Jesuit tradition. And so the Jesuits today still practice the examine, as well as countless individuals across all spectrums of religion. The examine can be prayed twice a day as part of that tradition, maybe at noon and in the evening, or just at the end of the day as you're winding down. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves some questions. There's a list of questions found in Ahlberg Calhoun's book. You can find some from various Jesuit websites. You can Google some. You can come up with your own. Whatever it is, again, that helps you achieve this practice of self-examination. I'm going to walk you through some questions and we're going to examine together. So clear your mind. Breathe in and breathe out. And let's examine. For what moment today did you feel grateful? What moment did I feel grateful for today? And conversely, at which moment in my day did I feel least grateful? When did I feel least grateful today? When did I give and receive love today? When did I give and receive love today? When did I withhold love today? When did I not feel loved today? What was the most life-giving moment of my day? What was the most life-giving moment of my day? What was the most life-robbing, life-thwarting moment of my day? When did I feel most connected to God today? When did I feel most connected with others today? When did I feel most connected to myself today? And on the converse, when did I feel least connected to the divine? When did I feel least connected with others? And when did I feel disconnected from myself? And as you reflect, notice the patterns. Notice what stands out. What can you do more of? What can you do less of? What gives you life? What gives you purpose? What robs you of your purpose? Where do you see the divine at work in your life? You can take these questions or a combination of these questions and ask yourself something like this every day. This practice, for those of us who maybe are more pessimistic or more, Adele Calhoun calls it melancholic or depressive. We're pretty in tune with our lows, but maybe we need to also pay attention to the highs. And for those individuals who finding a high or optimism are not a problem, sometimes it's good to be in touch with those low moments as well. Let's move on. This next practice is called Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina in Latin means divine reading, or maybe divine hearing. The Lectio, lecture word. This is a very, very old practice dating back to the beginnings of spirituality. It was very important in an illiterate society to hear the word, So this would have been scripture being read in churches, maybe in synagogues, and the individuals were invited to reflect on those words. This reading, this divine reading, is an invitation for you to reflect and to hear that divine presence speaking to you at a particular time in your life. 3 people in one room can practice Lectio Divina and will not hear the same thing. So, The way we practice this is to find a text, whether it's Holy Scripture, something found in the Torah or the Siddur, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran. Perhaps it's a holy word, or perhaps it's a poem that's particularly meaningful to you, or a particularly meaningful piece of prose, something that you can reflect on that's meaty enough that you can find some space with. It doesn't have to be long, but you don't want it to be super short either, because you want to have some movement allowed in that speaking, divine speaking. So after you find a selection of text, we're going to go through 5 movements. There are 5 movements to Lectio Divina. The first is Silencio, then there's Lectio, Meditatio, Oratio, and Contemplatio. And so we're going to go through these together. The first, Silencio. Sounds just like its cognate, silence. Silence. That means to remove your distraction and to release the chaos. So as you have your text, breathe in and breathe out, and try to remove your mind of those distractions. The second movement, Lectio. You read your text out loud. You read it slowly, you read it intentionally, and you pause when a word or a phrase stands out, and you listen. So you read it out loud and you listen. Now the third movement is meditatio. You meditate on what it is you are reading and hearing. So you read your text out loud for the second time. Savor the words. Ponder what they are saying to you. Consider why certain words are attractive to you. The fourth movement is Oratio. Read your text out loud for the third time, and then talk back. Pray, question, talk to the divine. Maybe talk to yourself. And then the fifth movement, Contemplatio. We contemplate and reflect and absorb what we have heard. We rest in the presence of the divine and the words that stand out and have been attractive to us. We soak in those words and we surrender ourselves to the meaning that we have gained from this time. And that's the basics of Lectio Divina, divine reading. Again, you can practice this with a holy piece of text, a poem, or a meaningful piece of prose. Try this on your own. Our next spiritual discipline is very similar to Lectio Divina, and it's called Vizio Divina, which means divine seeing or holy seeing. And this is probably something maybe you have engaged in already and didn't even know it, but now it's going to have a name. But it's taking beauty and reflecting on it, seeing what is out there and finding a holy moment with it. Now, this is something that has been practiced for hundreds of years and was especially important in religious societies with an illiterate society. Because if you can't come in contact with words, you have to find the divine in other ways. That's why you find stained glass in churches, different icons, statues, especially even illustrated Bibles, where there's not a lot of words, but there's a lot of images. So this Vizio Divina has been practiced for a long, long time. And now you have some words to it. Adele Ahlberg Calhoun calls it, it's a way to behold created beauty, which leads us to prayer. A way to behold created beauty, which leads us to prayer. If you had engaged with us with the earlier program, Praying and Meditating in Color, being able to draw and create is a way of practicing Vizio Divina and being able to visually connect with what we see with a holy moment. You can take what you find in nature, whether it's on vacation or hiking. Maybe it's a vision of nature from your back porch. Maybe it's art in an art gallery. In fact, one of the most meaningful worship services I've attended was a Shabbat service here in Paducah at Temple Israel, where the rabbi brought in several images of paintings from different times in history, but they all reflected the same biblical passage found in Torah, and then asked us to reflect and to observe and how our observations fueled into things that we had experienced, but also ways that we had experienced the text. So these are things that you can practice that you may have already been practicing yourself, but we're going to use some Lectio Divina and some examine moments to reflect on this image together. Let us practice silencio. Silence yourself. Release yourself from your distractions. At this moment, invite a higher power to enter into your space as you drain yourself of distraction. Look on this image with openness. How might the God of your choosing see this image? What about this image is attractive to you? What about this image is not so attractive to you? Notice what stirs within you. What memories or emotions does this image evoke? And then perhaps practice oratio. Talk out loud. Respond to this image. And then let us end with contemplatio. Soak in the image. What is the divine speaking to you through this image? Vizio Divina is something that you can practice at any time in the day. You may have found that you're already doing it when you gaze in the eyes of a newborn child, maybe a beloved pet. Maybe that's why you love to get away in nature or to get out on the lake, is because you are energized and you feel connected to the divine simply by what your eyes take in. Let's move on to our next practices. The next thing I want to introduce to you is an introduction of prayer and meditative tools. I have several things here today that I wanted to talk about, ways that we can use tools and physical objects to help train our minds and our hearts and our souls to more directed and spiritual time together. And the first thing I want to show you are clutching crosses. These happen to be made out of wood. Both of them were gifts. Both of them are from the Holy Land. This one I think is from Bethlehem, and this one I believe is from Jerusalem. They have two different designs. One has the perpendicular cross. This one has a little bit of a sideways element to it. They're designed to fit in my hand a little differently. This one I can fit my thumb into and kind of clutch it like this. This one I can kind of grasp my whole hand around it and kind of feel it a little differently. I also have one here that's made out of clay, and this one is designed to fit right in my thumb, like so, into the indent there. So it's a different way to clutch. Now, another thing you can incorporate into your prayer and meditative time are things like rocks or crystals. This is a rock that I actually keep in my possession. It has actually some meaning to me. And so sometimes I like to keep it around as a way, again, to just train my thoughts. Maybe I practice a little Vizio Divina with it. Maybe it's a crystal for you. Also, in the Catholic tradition, they're very familiar with prayer and meditative tools in the Rosary. This was a gift from a friend very recently, and each bead on a rosary helps us keep track of the prayers we are saying. The first 5 have very specific prayers that need to be said with each one, whether it's the Our Father or the Hail Mary or the Glory Be. And so as you clutch the rosary, you can walk your way through the beads. And then the beads around the main part are known as decades. And so each decade reflects a different mystery that goes back to the life of Christ. And so with each bead, there are prayers that you would say, a lot of Hail Marys to help direct and to contain that spiritual discipline. You can also burn incense or burn candles in your prayer and meditative time. In fact, these are another great way to engage your senses with incense or maybe aromatic candles, or even if you do essential oils and diffuse them, you're engaging your sense of smell, that olfactory sense that you can engage. Different scents have different purposes. A lot of time lavender has been proven to be a very calming scent. Maybe you're looking for some energy in your time of prayer and meditation, so you want to consider burning or encountering citrus scents. Also, if you light a candle, light is usually a symbol of the divine. So that is a way to kind of invite the holy, invite the spiritual into your time. And again, to help you create space that is specifically set apart for your prayer and meditation time. The next tool I want to talk about is called a labyrinth. You're not going to find a lot of labyrinths. They're a little bit more rare. The labyrinth is something that was created, it goes back to around the 12th century. And is thought a labyrinth, which looks like a maze, was created as a substitute for a spiritual journey or a spiritual pilgrimage that was very popular in different religious cultures, was making a journey either to prove your faith or to honor your faith, to connect with your faith. You needed to take a journey. And so a labyrinth is just that. It's a spiritual journey. It's a walk, a prayer walk. It's not a maze. You're not going to get lost. Hopefully you're going to get found. Now, the easiest way to find a labyrinth is to print one out. You can engage them with your fingers. Not the best way, but it is a way to do that, especially at home. I've seen them carved out of wood, and so you can trace the designs on wood or clay. So consider finding a makerspace in our wonderful creative Paducah and finding a pattern that you can trace into clay and maybe engaging in that way. But luckily for us in Western Kentucky, there are several sites that offer physical labyrinths to be able to walk through. One of those is at Center Point Recovery Center, where the residents there can engage that labyrinth as a part of their journey. There's also one at Grace Episcopal Church. The parish hall carpet has been designed with that labyrinth. I'm told there's also one at St. Peter's of the Lakes at Gilbertsville. I have engaged some that are portable, that have been painted on painter's cloth and are spread out, and they're very, very big. But the one that's most easily accessible to us in Western Kentucky in Paducah is located on 6th Street downtown, right next door to the Etc. Coffee House. This is a community labyrinth that is meant to be engaged for prayer and meditation and that spiritual journey. So why don't you come for a walk with me and we'll engage the labyrinth together. Before you enter, practice silencio. Silence yourself, quiet your mind, your heart, and your soul. Go ahead and turn your cell phone off. Leave your burdens and your distractions behind and ready yourself for this journey. Begin to walk. Slow, deliberate. Pause as you need to. Focus on the steps you're taking, the way each step feels on the ball of your foot, on your heel, on your toes. Breathe in and breathe out. Perhaps practice the examine. Ask yourself, where am I at peace? What is troubling me? What decision do I need to make? When you reach the center, stay and receive. Be open to the holy, to the inner consciousness, to words that need to be spoken, heard, or felt. Consider your posture. Maybe sit with your hands out or hands up. Maybe direct your face to the sky. You can sit, you can stand, you can lay down. At your own pace, when you are ready, begin your journey back. Pause. Listen. Focus on your steps. Focus on your breathing. At the exit, breathe. Reflect on what you have received. Perhaps practice some of that contemplatio. Soak in what you have received. Thanks for joining me on the Labyrinth walk. Again, if you see one, take advantage of it. It's a fantastic practice that, again, engages more of your senses as you free up your heart and your mind to receive whatever it is that you need to hear and receive. The final spiritual discipline that I want to engage with you on is called the breath prayer. Now, breath prayers are short, they are concise, they are direct, and they are parallel with our breathing. So we breathe in, we breathe out. So our prayers are going to find that rhythm. Because breathing is such an essential foundation of life, that is where this prayer and meditative practice is found. Again, if you're not religious, consider finding a mantra, maybe just a short word or phrase that you need to hear over and over again, and help time it and correlate it with your breathing. Consider using a clutching cross or another tool to help you engage in this practice. The first time I ever engaged in the breath prayer, it was a very moving moment for me. In fact, I cried afterwards. It was a very meaningful moment, and nothing. It was unlike anything I had previously engaged in before I had experienced this. The most common, and in fact the most famous breath prayer is something known as the Jesus prayer. And because of the nature of the prayer, it is quite religious. So bear with me if that is not your flavor. The Jesus prayer goes like this. It's in 4 stanzas. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. So we say it again. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And then focus in on your breath. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And as you pray or as you meditate, consider dropping off parts of your stanzas, whatever it is that you're repeating. Maybe only say half of your mantra. Jesus Christ, Son of God. Jesus Christ, Son of God. Whatever type of prayer you engage in, let it be a part of your breath. Again, This is not a time to pour out words. This is not oratio. This is not talking back. This is more of a combination of kind of that silencio and that contemplatio, with just a little bit of utterance that helps us communicate but also receive. As we breathe in and we breathe out, and connect with our words in a very, very different way. Again, it's designed to be short. It's designed to parallel our breath, designed to calm us down, to relieve our tension, to connect us with the divine, the inner consciousness, whatever it is that centers us and gives us life and gives us purpose. Try the breath prayer, maybe in the afternoons when things are stressful at work, maybe in the morning before you get up. Find a mantra. Find whatever phrase that you need to have spoken to you at that moment, and time it with your breathing. Again, breathe in and out. Speak it, think it, feel it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, if you want to know any more about any of these spiritual disciplines or the many, many more that are included, check out Adele Ahlberg Calhoun's book, The Spiritual Disciplines Handbook, Practices That Transform Us. You will find so many different exercises and additional resources, many of which may be available at our website. So go to mclib.net, www.mclib.net. You can search our catalog there for what we have in-house, as well as on our digital borrowing platforms. It'll tell you of some things available on our app Hoopla or on our app Libby through Overdrive. Again, thank you so much for letting me be in your house today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for allowing me to extend you hospitality by joining me in my home today. Again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you with more virtual programming at the McCracken County Library. Thanks again.